It's time for Clubhouse Chatter. Good Sunday morning. The boys are back. Here's Tony Torcato and Norm Ordez.
Wow, how did you get first billing?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just sitting
Man, you've been gone for so long, you get first billing today.
I'm sitting next to you. That's why.
All right, that works. Hey, that's right. Norm Ordez here with Tony Torcato, Brian Erickson, and we are back for the final take of this Sunday, snowy Sunday, man. We had snow up here.
Terrible.
And our last guest this morning, I'll tell you what, this guy is pretty hilarious. You're going to love him. And his name is Ransom Jackson, or Handsome Ransom Jackson, as his book is. Handsome Ransom Jackson, Accidental Big Leaguer. Holy cow, I'm getting tied up. Ransom, how's it going?
Tongue's all tied up.
It is. How you doing this morning?
Fine. What y'all drinking up there?
We got a little vino. I'm sure we got some sake somewhere around here. So the first question I have right out of the chute is, how did you get the nickname Ransom?
Oh, it's not a nickname. Ransom is my first name. My father's name is Ransom.
Okay.
I'm Ransom. My first son's name Ransom, and my third son is named Ransom. We just threw that name around all over the place.
I guess so. You know.
And then somebody, I don't know who, threw in Randy, and then a sportscaster in Chicago threw in Handsome Ransom because it rhymed.
Absolutely.
And that's the story of my life.
So, 91 years old, and, I've talked to you a couple different times, and I'm telling you, you're with it. There's not a bunch of you guys left.
Well, here's I can tell you exactly. I had a list of the 100 oldest major leaguers, and these are even guys that were up there for a month are on the list. But I'm the fifth oldest Brooklyn Dodger, still living. I'm the second oldest Los Angeles Dodger, still living. I'm the fifth oldest Chicago Cub, still living, and I think the sixth oldest living Cleveland Indian.
Holy cow!
Wow.
So that makes me old as hell, doesn't
it? It does. It does. So,
but here's what I did. So you look at all these guys, and I played with a lot of people over the course of 10 years in the majors, and most of them, 95% of them are no longer here. So all the stories that I've got in my mind between me and those guys, if I don't tell a story, then it's gone. If I'm gone, it's all gone.
Right.
So I sat down with a legal pad, start writing, and filled up 4 legal pads.
Wow.
With just written words, and I think there's 77 pages in a legal pad. And my wife typed it up, and then we looked at each other like, chickens in the chicken yard. Where do you go next? And we found a guy, turned out to be a friend of my wife's, and he had written a good baseball book that he was selling, just been published, about a guy named Steve Bilko.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve, he was the Babe Ruth of the West Coast, and I played with him. He was with the Cubs for a while, and he could actually hit a ball. You've seen, I don't know whether you've seen little cartoons about baseball in the old days, and when the guy hit the ball would go screaming over the bench with his mouth open. And this is the way Bilko was. He was so strong. He just hit balls in backpacks on roofs across the street. But anyway, he had just written a book. His name was Galen White, and he had just written a book about Bilko. And so he said, "Yeah, I'll come down and we'll put this thing together." So we did, and he's kind of a guy who everything's got to be just right, and everything's got to be honest. And he would research every little sentence in the book, and he'd take a paragraph of mine and turn it in 3 paragraphs, And it was fantastic the way he writes. And then we sent it to his publisher, and 2 weeks later they normally take a long time, but 2 weeks later they said we'll take it, and that's where we are. And it came out in the middle of last year, and it's really done well. But all it did is a bunch of stories.
And you guys sent me a copy here. I just received it this last week, and I will sit down and start reading this and stuff like that. I mean, cool. You're right about, the older guys, and that's where we like to come in and, give you kind of an outlet to tell the stories as well. And, man, some of you guys, we have Carl Erskine on, who tells great stories, and, it's a pass to, former Major League. And I mean, Tony, with you being a former Major League player, I mean, these are the guys that set the table before you.
Yeah. Oh.
And I know, you have a little bit with the history, but this is where it's at.
Old school.
And, first question I would like, I've got a buddy listening by the name of Frank Baumholtz. And I'm sure that rings a bell with you because you played with his grandfather, Frank Baumholtz.
Oh, don't tell me that. Say father, that's fine. But don't tell me I played with his grandfather.
You played with his...
It used to be people come and say, yeah, I enjoyed watching you at Wrigley Field. Somebody, my daddy told me all about you, and now they're saying my grandfather told me. It makes me... Well, I am old, but I'm sorry. I'm just carrying on.
What do you remember about playing with Frank?
Playing with Frank?
Yes.
Well, to tell you what, Frank had a hard time one year. To his right, he had a guy named Ralph Kiner playing, and to his left, he had a guy named Hank Sauer. And I could outrun them running backwards. And it was, and then poor Frankie, had to cover the whole, playing center field. He had to cover the whole field. He was, balls were falling all over the place because balls that he wasn't supposed to catch, but it looked like he was supposed to catch. But neither Sauer and our Connor were very fast. So he had a tough year that year. But I do remember Frankie Baumholtz as well, the nicest person that I ever met in baseball. Just a great guy. And he did have a bad year that year, but it wasn't his fault.
Right. And so then you were traded to the Brooklyn Dodgers, and you were the guy that was supposed to replace Jackie Robinson as Jackie Robinson got older. Tell us a little bit about that. Those are some huge shoes to fill.
I spent one winter in Chicago, which was a mistake. Good Lord, it's cold and snowy. And, but the phone rang one night in December, and I answered. It was a sports writer friend of mine. He said, guess what? I said, what? He said, you've been traded. I said, what kind of game are you playing? I said, I've been here for almost 6 years. I just played the last two All-Star games representing Chicago. And, I'm a great guy, and they love me here. I'm just making this up as I go along.
Right.
But and he said, no, you've been traded. I said, well, okay, tell me to who. And he said, well, guess. I said, don't do this to me. I said, tell me. And he said, well, he said, oh, you got to guess. So I started at the bottom. I said, Pittsburgh, no. Cincinnati, no. He said, you've been traded to the Dodgers. And I said, you are full of it. Because, most all ball players want to play the All-Star game, which I played a couple of them. But then you want to play in the World Series, of course.
Right.
And I knew with the Cubs at that time, now today's a different story, and I loved what happened last year. But back then we were stuck in fifth place, sixth place, and so I knew we were never going to go to the World Series because of management. And when he said that he'd just been traded to the Brooklyn Dodgers, and they had just beat the Yankees in the World Series, and so I knew that I had a chance to play in the World Series. So I was just tickled pink. And I was traded for three guys to the Dodgers, and of course, because Jackie was going to retire the next year, and so that was the reason they got me over there, and he did. So going over there, and I played against these guys all that year, And when you went into Ebbets Field and played the Brooklyn Dodgers, and you were looking at Pee Wee Reese and Duke Steiner and Carl Ferrello and Gil Hodges and Roy Campanella and Carl Erskine and Don Newcomb and all these guys. I mean, I felt like you were, before the game started, you were one run behind just because of those guys. But to get the shoe on the other foot, and all of a sudden I was with them. You know, and I wasn't with the Cubs anymore. It was just great to know that I had a possibility of playing in the World Series. And sure enough, we won the pennant on the last day of the season and went to the World Series. And I got to sit there and watch Don Larson pitch a perfect game. Hated it.
Don Larson, you know, that's another story in itself with us over here. You see Don on a regular basis over here in Salem Kaiser. He comes down every year to sign autographs and you know, like I said, that's a totally different story, off-air story on that one.
Yeah.
So you played in 2 All-Star games, you know, tell us a little bit about the All-Star game, you know, back in those days. I mean, it's quite a bit different now.
Well, of course, they had, I think we had the home run thing the night before, but they weren't hitting the ball as far as they do today. I mean, these guys, it's surprising how far they hit the ball. But I've seen some long balls hit.
Right.
And I hit one in Chicago one day. It went over the left center field of the wall, and it went over the bleachers, and it went over the fence behind the bleachers, and it went over the street, and it hit a apartment building between the second and third floor across the street.
Wow.
And I tried my best to get the Cubs to get somebody to figure out how far that thing went, so I could put it in my book. And you know, they listen to the radio, they can do it right away. And I think they make some of these things up in their own mind. But I could not get a single soul, and I went through everybody I could find up there. So I said, well, hell, nobody's going to know. It's, you know, 60 years ago. So I estimated my own. So I put a figure in there that nobody's going to be able to know the difference. But I know exactly where it hit, because 2 kids after the game showed me where it hit. They were out in the street trying to catch balls. And so they showed me where it hit on the apartment building. And so I said, well, I just estimated it forward 60 feet. And so I'm sure that's pretty close if you look at the measurements of Wrigley Field. But, you know, guys today, it's amazing. I see these guys who look like they're 3'6", and they got these skinny bats, and they hit 20 home runs. And you say, good Lord, you know, how do you do that?
We were talking a little bit before about Jose Altuve of the Houston Astros, 5'6", 5'7", on how he's hitting 20, 25 bombs every year. It's a different game. I mean, baseball's still the same, but of course, you know, the players now, I mean, you know, with the weight training, the different
stronger, faster.
You know, they're stronger and faster. I mean, you look at like Mike Trout and Giancarlo Stanton. Yeah, they're putting balls 400 or 500 feet.
I wish I'd taken a picture of the clubhouse. You know, our clubhouse, they were just wide enough for you to sit down. And the only other rooms they had was a shower and a manager's office and a room for the guy to rub you down and tape you up, and another room for that had some stuff in there where you could sit in and had a whirlpool. And that's about it. You know, we didn't have any TV or games or food or. Oh, they did have you could get one beer after the game, but you had to sign for it. It wasn't free. So, you know, a different story. Well, but what did I know? You know,
right?
I didn't. I was just lucky to make the big money back then that I did.
And you know,
I figured the other. I make a lot of talks. And I usually tell people, you know, they know that there's big money out there. And I said I played 10 years in the majors, and I had some good years, played 2 All-Star teams. And I said, if you take all the money that I made in the 10 years and put it together and add it up, there are a bunch of major leaguers who make that in a week.
The money is crazy today.
Yes.
Well, it is. But what did I know?
Right.
I mean, I was just a guy having fun playing baseball.
What do you think was the highlight of your career?
Well, again, going over the Dodgers was one of the highlights. Playing in a couple of All-Star games and the World Series. And I didn't find out until 25 years after I got out of baseball. My son called me from Columbus, Georgia, and I just finished shaving. He came in, and I answered the phone. He said, "Dad, did you know that you were on Good Morning America?" And I said, "Why would I be on Good Morning America?" He said, "Well, they had a question there. Who hit the last Brooklyn Dodger home run?" And then they came back later and said it was you. And this was 25 years after I got out. And I said, "I didn't know that." So I found that out. And then I found out that I was the first major leaguer to get a recorded, now the big word is recorded intentional walk in either league, in the National or the American. You want me to tell you how that happened?
Absolutely.
Well, in 1954, some of the Smarties, wherever they were, in the fifth, in the tower somewhere, started looking through the records, and they found out that nobody had recorded the first intentional walk. They recorded how many hits there, how many bucks here, how many strikes here, but nobody recorded the first intentional walk. So they said, we got to start this year. So they started in 1954. The first year, we played the first game of the season against St. Louis, and they usually play St. Louis one day before the regular season starts, and for everybody else. And we were playing, and I was batting in the first inning, and the pitcher, I remember the pitcher, his name was Brooks Lawrence. And for some reason, in the first inning, he walked me intentionally in the first inning. So we researched the thing, and we found out there was another guy for some other team that got a walk in the first inning, too. But there was a time difference. He was in another time zone, and so he was actually an hour behind me. So it turned out that I ended up being the first intentional walk in the major leagues, recorded.
Wow.
Well, you can take that down to the store, and I don't even know what you get a sucker for that, but
still pretty cool trivia. Absolutely,
it's a record.
So
And then
go ahead.
And then there was another one. We were playing Philadelphia one night. We were fighting for the pennant, and we were behind 5-2. And Pee Wee walked, and I guess it was Junior and Gilliam walked, and Pee Wee forced him at second. And then Duke Steiner came up and hit a home run, and I was batting fourth, and I came up behind him and hit a home run. And then Gil Hodges came up behind me and hit a home run and made it 6-5, game over. And went home. This is the bottom of the ninth, and we researched that, and that's never been done in baseball history. 3 straight home runs at the bottom of the ninth. Now, there's been home runs at the bottom of the ninth, but not 1, 2, 3. It's been, home run, single, home run. But 3 straight home runs in the bottom of the ninth. So, again, you can take that somewhere. But what a game that was.
Oh, no doubt. So what was it like for you coming in from Chicago, going to Brooklyn, going and seeing like that Dodgers uniform for that first time and knowing, you're in the same clubhouse with Jackie Robinson, Duke Snider, Pee Wee Reese. What were your thoughts? I mean, was it one of those deals to where like, oh my gosh, were you just in awe of the whole thing?
Well, actually, I was, because I played against these guys for 5.5 years. You don't know players that you play against. You don't really know them personally. I mean, like if they could come into the third, if they slide the third and get up, then, like we could speak or something like that. But as far as, putting your arm around them, saying hello or talk about what you're going to do after the game, you don't do that normally to guys that you have never played with. But I played against all those guys, and I admired all those guys because I could see what they could do. And and all of a sudden, wham! I'm through with the second division. I've gone up to the stars. The guys I played with Chicago, they were good guys, but I played with Ralph Connor and Hank Sauer and those kind of guys. Actually, to be honest, it wasn't a very good team over those years. But to go from there to a team that consistently plays in the World Series, it was just a different ball game. So I was really excited. I tried to turn a flip, but I was too old to turn one.
And what was it like from going, from Brooklyn to L.A.? I mean, that was a huge move for the time.
Well, it was. I didn't know anything about it until I saw it in the paper. A lot of guys had heard about it and kind of knew something about it. The guys that had played there a long time and knew O'Malley and knew some of the front office guys. I knew those guys, but just to speak to, and they certainly weren't going to confide in me. But as I said, the only time I found out about it was when I read about it in the newspaper. And I had played in Los Angeles in the minor leagues just for a while. But it was Chicago owned Los Angeles back then. And they had a small ballpark out there. It was a nice ballpark, but it was a small one. And I kind of wondered, how they were going to do that. But then I found out they were going to play on a football field. And I'd played 3 years of college football, and I knew how do you play a baseball game on a football field. And we got out there, and sure enough, they'd arranged the thing with a fence in left field about 240 feet out there, which went up very, very high. And in right field, the fence was out of sight. So it was an unusual arrangement. But they did plan the thing for, I don't know what, 3 or 4 years before their stadium was built. And it was great. We'd sit on the steps and look backwards into the stands because all the movie stars would come out, and we'd sit there. Hey, look there, there's so and so. Hey, look over there. Then somebody'd say, "What's the score?" We say, "We don't really care. We're having fun watching the movie stars." And that was the highlight, to watch the movie stars. Right. And they were all around the dugout because they wanted to see us, and we wanted to see them.
You talked a little bit about playing 3 years of college football. And so you played in 2 Cotton Bowls, and you played with, what, three different colleges?
No, I started out at the University of Arkansas after I graduated from high school, and then Uncle Sam asked me to join the service. And so I signed up to go to the officers training program, which was midshipman school, and they sent me to TCU.
Okay.
They get you up at 5:30 in the morning, and they run you around, and you have all these classes you got to go to. If you flunk one, then you go out to see where they're fighting. And they were very strict, and we wear those little uniforms with a little white hat on top, and bell-bottom trousers. And I was walking around one afternoon after I got through studying, and I saw football team practice. There wasn't many guys. They had 20, 25, 30 guys. That's about it. And the coach comes up to me. His name was Dana X Bible, and he said he's in the football Hall of Fame, and he's about 5'8", in a gruff voice. He said, "Son, you ever played football?" I said, "No, sir. We didn't have it in high school. I just played pickup around on the fields. We just had fun, but I've never played any football had coaches or anything. He said, well, we need bodies. He said, come on out. I said, thank you, Coach. I've got so much study to do, chemistry, physics, all that kind of stuff. I don't have time. And he said, we need you. And I said, well, okay. So I went out. And we only had, I think we played, really had only 18, 19 guys that played. And I played for the first time in my life. And we won the Southwest Conference. I went to the Cotton Bowl and played Oklahoma A&M, who had 3 All-Americans. And we had about 18 guys to play. They just barely beat us 44-0. And then the next year, they closed the midshipman school and then sent us to University of Texas. I got down there, and we traded those bell bottoms for officers' uniform. And the coach down there, his name was Dana X Bible, and he's also in the Hall of Fame. He's a little guy, too. He called me Jackson. He said, I saw you play at TCU. We need you. And I said, Coach, I've got all this study to do. If I flunk out, I'm gone. He said, oh, we need you. We got a good quarterback coming in by the name of Bobby Lane. And I never heard of Bobby Lane. And so I said, well, okay. So I went out and played with Bobby Lane. You know, he's one of the all-time quarterbacks with LB with Detroit.
Yep.
And what a great, he could throw a pass like a pillar. I mean, you'd be running out there, here comes a pillar, and you got to catch it because you can't miss it. It's just like a pillar. But he stayed out all night before a game. He'd be out till 4 o'clock before he'd play in one of the big games. And he'd go out the next day and complete 24 out of 25 passes. Most amazing guy. And then he was a pitcher for the baseball team. And his record, 2-year record, was 28-zip.
Wow.
So, but that's how I got to play it in two straight consecutive Cotton Bowl for 2 different teams, which had never been done, of course. And then I ended up leading the Southwest Conference and hitting for 3 years, which has never been done. And I didn't even know I did all this stuff till years and years later. So it's kind of he just kind of fell into these things I did. I wasn't trying to do anything except have fun. And that's what it did.
That's, and you think about it, that's pretty amazing. I mean, number one, your connection with one of the all-time greats in the NFL, Bobby Lane, and then, you go to, Major League Baseball, Brooklyn Dodgers, Jackie Robinson, Duke Snyder, Pee Wee Reese. I could just go on and on and on. And then another one of the stories that you tell in the book is about the Galloping Ghost, Red Grange. And we all know about Red Grange.
But I never had. I guess I'd heard of Red Grange. Well, growing up, I couldn't tell you one baseball player in by name, except a good friend of my dad's was a guy named Bill Dickey, who was the great catcher for the Yankees. Was from Little Rock. That's where I grew up, and it was a good friend of my dad's. He came by in 1939. The Yankees played an exhibition game in Little Rock, and after the game, he came by the house, and he gave me an autographed ball with all the 1939 Yankees on there.
Wow.
And I said, thank you very much. The next day, I was out playing catch with it. So, what I did not know one thing about anybody growing up or even in college. I could not tell you one. I guess I could probably name a couple, but, never planned on playing baseball until I found out that I was fixing to graduate from college, and I better find something to do.
Right.
So that's how I got into baseball. There was something to do.
Well, tell us a little bit about the Red Grange.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I after the game, I don't know, maybe it was a sports writer or something. I was walking from the field over to go down to the dugout and go up, and the sports writer called me over, and he said, "I'd like you to meet somebody." And I said, okay. He said, I'd like you to bet Grange. I said, how are you, Mr. Grange? Nice to meet you. And, didn't mean a thing to me.
Right.
And we talked a while, and he said, I understand you played football. I said, yes, sir. I just, I kind of dabbled at it when I was in college. And he said, he started talking, and he said, how would you like to come down to my apartment and see my stuff? And I said, in a flash. And so he told me where it was, and I got I went up there the next couple of days. I went there, and we sat in his room, in his living room, and he had a lot of stuff there, and we talked football, I don't know, a couple of hours. And I guess it's one of the highlights of my life is to sit there and talk with Red Grange. Not too many folks have had a chance to do that.
Right.
So I've been up and talked with Ty Cobb. He lives right up the road. So I've talked to him and Red Grange. So that's some pretty good baseball and football players.
I bet you that was some interesting stories there with Ty Cobb.
Yeah. Well, at the time he was pretty sick. I mean, he didn't talk a lot, but he did tell us a few stories. He was kind enough to get out of his bedroom and come in the living room and sit down and talk to us for about an hour and a half. It was a really privilege.
Right.
We were lucky to even see him. I think he died about 6 months later, but we did get to talk to him, and I've got a picture on my wall. And one of the guys that went up with me was a guy named Frank Sinkwich, who won the Heisman Trophy here in Georgia. So he was a good friend of mine, so he went with me.
Wow. I grew up in just outside of Twin Falls, Idaho, and at one time, Ty Cobb owned the Coca-Cola bottling plant in Twin Falls, and so.
Well, he made probably more money than you.
Oh, absolutely.
He invested all his money in Coca-Cola way back.
Yep.
And I've had people try to guess what his estate was and how much money he made, and his family's still making money, I understand. And he's given so much of it away. There's a hospital here named after him, and he gives a lot of money to young kids who are studying to be nurses and doctors. So he's given a lot of money away, but it's going to good things.
Right. Once again, Mr. Ransom Jackson, and check out Handsome Ransom Jackson, Accidental Big Leaguer. You could find this. Where can you find the book?
Well, any bookstore should have it. Barnes and Noble or Amazon. And, you can order it. And you can go on the internet and find I think it's Ransom Jackson. If you look under Ransom Jackson, you can find anything.
Yep.
And they're all about to be in the book. But the bookstore is fine. It's I have a lot of. It's interesting. I have a lot of older women who come to me and say, I don't really like sports, but I read your book, and it's just stories, and it's really interesting. I said, well, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. But it's as I said, it's just, I had got a letter from a guy yesterday. He said, I just got your book. He says, I read it in one city. I read it all night long. I sat there and read it. And I said, well, that's really liking what you see. But it's nobody gets shot, nobody gets murdered. It's just stories about people who are no longer here.
This is what Carl Erskine said. This is what Oysk said about it. Randy, first an opponent and then a teammate, has penned a classic baseball book. Reading it put me back into my Dodgers uniform, reliving many of these happenings. You'll get the feel of baseball in the 8-team league days of the 1950s, from the field, dugout, and front office, and you get it from one of the most popular players of his day, Handsome Ransom. That's what Carl had said.
Yeah, Carl's a great guy.
Carl's a great guy. We have him on the show a couple times every year, and Like I said,
Sandy Koufax said something too on the back.
Sandy did. He said, Ransom Jackson, a fine player, teammate, and friend, now an author as well. I wish him all the best. That's what Sandy had to say. And, as we're getting closer, got spring training going on, as we're getting closer to that magical opening day, are there certain players that you follow? Do you still follow the Dodgers or the Cubs?
Well, no. In all honesty, I try to follow the Braves because they're local,
right?
So to speak, Atlanta. And last year they had a horrible year. They got rid of all the good guys. I don't know what they're doing. They got a brand new stadium that, from what I understand, it's parking is pretty tough. But I just really don't know anybody, and I don't know, so I don't follow it. If I don't have anything to do, I'll watch a baseball game.
Right.
But I don't know the names or anything. I'd rather watch golf.
Oh, there you go.
I played 77 years of golf. Yeah. No, 72 years of golf. Until my back said you better quit. So I did. And so I'd rather watch golf than baseball. But baseball interests me. I'm amazed at what some of these people can do in the infield. Some of the plays they make, some of the catches they make, I've seen Willie Mays make catches out of his gourd, but these guys make even better ones.
Right.
So good for them. And as I said, hit the ball so far you wonder, is the ball real? Are they wound tighter? I don't know, but go get them and keep making the big money. There's nothing I can do about it except be envious.
Right. Well, I think the Braves are headed in the right direction. Of course, they open up SunTrust Park this season, and it looks like to be a beautiful ballpark. And of course, I think that they have Dansby Swanson, who quite possibly could win Rookie of the Year this season. I think the Braves they're in a tough division, but they're heading in the right direction.
Well, I hope so, because you got to wish for local people to win,
Right.
wherever they are. Just like I pull for the Georgia Bulldogs every time they walk on the field, because they're right here in town.
Once again, Ransom Jackson. Hey, let's do this again. Let's do this again real soon. We'll have you back on and tell some more stories. And we love.
Yeah, Norm, I still got some left.
Do you still got like 7 legal pads to go?
Yeah.
And so we definitely love hearing about the stories of yesteryear and before my time, and let's do this again, and we'll have you on even longer.
I like to talk to young people like you.
Well, thank you. I'll take that, and of course the young dog in here is Mr. Torquato, and but yeah, let's do it again soon, and we'll set something up.
Okay, yeah, that's it. I mean, I probably got 4 or 5 chapters left.
Oh, I totally agree.
Cool.
I totally agree. All right, Ransom, you have a good rest of your day.
No, I appreciate you calling. It's made my day.
All right, sir. Hey, we'll talk soon.
Take care,
All
buddy.
right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Once again, Ransom Jackson. Brian, you got a take here? You look like you got something you want to say.
I kind of took the book during the middle of the segment there, and I almost forgot to give it back because I started reading a couple of the stories, and he's got a way of telling a story. It makes it very interesting. That's why that guy read it in one take.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we reach out to these older ball players and coaches and stuff, and I think, he's in the Bobby Winkles category. Bobby is looking at possibly doing a book as well, but the stories from the 50s, though, I mean, he was brought in to replace Jackie Robinson.
The history of it all, not only just the 50s, but just baseball stories. I mean, we've been joking around with Tony. I mean, Tony, you've got a million stories. I mean, we've all got stories from our Little League careers.
Most are too explicit for radio.
True, which, makes some of them very interesting.
Yeah. Maybe I'll share next time.
But then some of them, there's just baseball stories. I mean, really, seriously, Little League stories. I've got 5 or 6 I can think off the top of my head, and I played until, I was a junior in high school. But after that, you've got, all the way through up to the majors. I'm sure. It's just great stuff.
Ransom Jackson. So think about it. You're playing with the Chicago Cubs, the lovable losers. You're traded. You're traded. But before that, you play, in 2 Cotton Bowls with Texas Christian University.
True.
And you played with the great Bobby Lane at University of Texas Hook'em Horns. I mean, I'm thinking the movie Forrest Gump, when, Forrest Gump, it seemed like, throughout all the decades, he had something different, that he was involved with something huge. So here he is, Bobby Lane, Red Grange. I've never heard of a Red Grange story up until this. I mean, Ty Cobb.
Yeah.
It's something I didn't know about. I didn't see it in the book.
It's good stuff.
And then you're brought in to replace Jackie Robinson.
It's totally Forrest Gump-esque.
I mean, it just blows my mind. You think about, Tony, I mean, who was on top? Well, the Giants were on top when you were playing. They were, and so for you to go into the clubhouse and you see Kent and Bonds and all those other guys, your first time, man, what's going through your mind?
First time was pretty cool. It was.
It just blows your mind.
The guys I grew up watching, so it was pretty cool.
I remember, Brian makes fun of this all the time, but I go back to Lancaster and, being in the clubhouse. Here I got, I'm meeting the guys that I've got baseball cards of. Matt Chico, and different guys like that, Carlos Gonzalez, Mark Reynolds. Guys who've been in the minors, but I've heard of them. Now you look at them and it's like Carlos and Mark Reynolds still in the majors, doing well, and Bonifacio, and this just blows my mind. And, hey, thank God for being in Lancaster in 2006.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a good year, man, this year.
So. I think so. I think...
hopefully I can keep up. I haven't lately.
Right.
I haven't gone.
It's hard to keep up sometimes, with everything going on. Baseball's in a good place, and I know we've said this before, and with all the young bucks coming up, Trout and Harper, and you even got more now. I mean, I was watching the Yankees the last couple of days. Aaron Judge, good God.
Yeah.
6'7", 245 pounds. He's probably bigger than that. And he's an outfielder. He's a corner outfielder.
He's fast. He got a lot of power.
Got a lot of power. We're talking light tower power.
Dang. He's having good spring training.
He hit a first at bat, I think. Second at bat, it was a home run. And it was for one of those 460, 475 foot shots. I mean,
the real tell is, though, during the season.
Absolutely.
Spring training, everybody fucking rakes, dude.
So tell us a little bit about spring training. So
everybody rakes.
I can't remember who it was that came out and said that spring training is useless. Spring training is a waste of time.
It's not, because you got guys that are trying to make the team that are spring training. Like I was trying to make the team. So it's meaningful. It is.
Right.
But for the older guys that they're pretty established, obviously they're just getting their at-bats.
They're just buying their time.
Buying their time. But the young guys like us coming up, it is meaningful. You want to make the team. You want to make an impression. And you're trying to make it.
What number did you wear in spring training? Do you remember?
21, maybe 20, 14. I'm not sure.
So a low number.
Yeah. Well,
That's what happens when you're number one draft pick.
Yeah. I mean,
the first few games, like in 99, 2000, I wore like 85 or something like that. They call that the scrub numbers.
Well, I was watching that Yankee-Angels game where Judge hit the home run. There were 97, 77, 86.
It's pretty funny, though, because like when you see a guy come in, pinch run or something, he has that number 97, you're like, oh, that's the guy.
One of the lower
got called up from the minor leagues for the day.
So I was watching the Cubs play yesterday. Yeah, I was watching the Cubs play yesterday, and I was watching like Jacob Hanneman who's been on the show, and he had gotten into the game as a pinch runner, and of course he's got the high number, and he's got his last name on the jersey. And so at that point he's like a AA or above player. If they got nameplates on if they got names on their jerseys, they're like AA or higher.
I don't know how they do it now.
Now it's the lower guys, because I was also noticing that there was guys that number 94, 98. They didn't have their names on the back of the jersey. Those are the
guys
lower,
that got called up for the day.
Those are the low A guys.
Or the guys that called up for the day that's filling in for a veteran that's taking
Absolutely.
yeah. But it's, hey, though, he still got called up to play, so that's you're there.
And do you remember your first spring training game that you ever played in?
Yeah, I pinched hit or something or came in late. Mm-hmm.
And what was that? I mean, you're all excited. You're probably having a hard time like controlling those nerves.
Man, I honestly can't remember. I think I, struck out probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. But hey, if you're up there, though, if you get called up for the day from the minor leagues.
That's pretty cool.
You're actually there in a big league game, so you got a shot and you can prove yourself because other scouts are watching from other teams.
Absolutely.
So if you do something well, they write that down. So it doesn't matter.
And that was another thing that I had heard about spring training was if you're one of those guys that's on the edge,
another team
not only are you trying out for the manager, but you're also trying out for
other teams,
the 29 other teams in the league, because
you never know who's watching, who can get picked up. Pretty cool though. That's why baseball is, in any pro sports, is pretty exciting, because you never know.
Right.
You do not know.
Well, and it goes back to, you always hear stories of, we'll use Mike Piazza as an example. Hall of Fame, what picked in the 60th round?
62nd,
something like that.
62nd, I think. Yeah.
And you look at what he did. I mean, he was drafted as a favor to Tommy Lasorda.
Backup catcher, single A backup catcher, short season single A backup catcher.
He was not supposed to be in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. Yeah. Not supposed to make it to the majors.
But that's with anything in life.
Hard work,
opportunity. You never know, man. You just never know.
Not only is it about the hard work, but it's about the lucky breaks.
Yes, it's a little bit of luck. Because, there's a lot of people that get overlooked, too. A lot of people that are talented in anything, though. Baseball, it could be anything, that get overlooked. That should be, maybe at the top, but that's the way it goes, too. It's the way life is, man.
Baseball season is here, man. I'm excited. I'm excited for this year. We got opening day about a little bit of month away.
Pretty cool.
Spring training, is up and going, and God, it's fun to watch baseball again. It's fun to watch Major League Baseball.
Should be fun.
Brian is watching the Cardinals, and it's just, Cardinals? Look at those beautiful Cardinal jerseys. I mean,
the sunshine. Yeah, Arizona's pretty cool this time of year. Spring training. Oh, man.
That in Florida. You never got to witness. You never got to go to Florida, though.
No, but you know what? The best place is in Arizona is playing at the Giant Stadium, Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
Scottsdale's really nice. It's a very nice place to play. The weather's good. I mean, it's just cool, man. I miss playing there.
And what do you miss most?
Out of spring training?
Just about all of it.
Oh, man, everything. The weather, the competition.
The people you play with.
The people you play with, the guys, hanging out in the clubhouse and doing all that stuff, so.
You miss playing in Bakersfield, don't you?
Bakersfield, yeah, man. God, that's big league shit right there.
Bakersfield, yes. They played against the Lancaster Jethawks, Brian.
Bakersfield Blaze. Hell yeah, man. I give anything to play there right now.
So the deal is Brian, every time I mention Lancaster, Brian says he's
Lancaster's a good stadium, though.
And so, hey, that is something I'm pretty proud of. And I'll tell you, as a baseball fan, that was one of the coolest things ever was being clubhouse manager for the Lancaster Jethawks as a baseball fan.
I like that stadium. I mean, the ball flew out of there.
I mean,
you love to go there, and play in the Cal League.
If you were a pitcher, you cringed pitching there.
I know. Oh, man.
The year I was there, our batting average was around 320 as a team. We broke records in home runs, RBIs, and our pitching staff had, I think it was close to a 6 ERA. I mean, we weren't the only ones.
Yeah,
I
big
mean,
league spring training, man.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's where's that at?
That's Arizona. No, that's Florida.
Florida.
Yeah. Miami, the Marlins.
Yeah.
So
yeah, pitchers are getting ready, just working on their stuff. The hitters, working on everything. But the young guys are trying to make an impression.
That's a fun thing to watch.
Yeah, because you got. I know on the Giants, the left fielder. There's a battle between a couple guys that are trying to make the squad or be the starter. There's battles going on. People think it's different. There's battles going on in position and stuff.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine, Facebook friend of mine, who connected me with Ransom Jackson. Yes, Jackson. And that is
Norman?
Jim Denny, who is a firefighter EMT for the city of Anderson, Indiana, of course, where our friend Carl Erskine lives. And Jim, thank you. Thanks for listening. We're going to have Carl on here soon. And thanks for everything you do there, Mr. Firefighter. And once again, Brian Erickson, Tony,
hey, thanks for having me,
the Tiger Torcado, with us as well. And we are sponsored by Baseballisms, baseballisms.com. If you like my hat or my hoodie, hit them up. Baseballisms. Baseballdudes.com. Chris Gazelle up there in Vancouver, Washington. To be the best, you must train like the best. Skipper Mitch Canham, building an athlete's sports education based by pros. His dad, Mark Canham, does the shirts for us for Clubhouse Chatter. MDM Designs, check them out. And we stream live every week on yamhilltoday.com. And if you want to catch us, you can catch us on Twitter, Clubhouse Chatter 1T, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes. Where else are we on, Brian? MLB.com blog.
Satchel.
It's
a new one.
Satchel's a new one. And we're going to be doing some new stuff. And so, once again, for Brian and Tony, I'm Norm. We are Clubhouse Chatter. See you next week.
See ya.